Hello. This is, for whoever's interested enough in the Pokemon TCG to actually watch this, gonna be my first impressions of all of the art of the newly, freshly revealed cards for the Temporal Forces set coming out in March. I'm very excited about this set for lots of gameplay reasons, but not all the translations are available. I've looked through quite a few of the Wild Force cards already to look at the arts, but a lot of these Cyber Judge ones I still have not taken a look at, so I wanted to get first impressions on recording and just kind of talk about what I think makes some cool card art, what doesn't, and yeah, so hopefully you like it. We're going to start off with the Wild Force cards, starting with this Roselia here. I like it pretty well. It's a very interesting card art in that Roselia, its body itself really doesn't have that much color variety, right? It's green and light green. And it seems like for the background of this, they've elected to do something very similar. And so I think in a situation where Roselia's roses were not as brightly colored and differently colored as they are, this would just be such a bland image. But I think that's done intentionally so that these roses really pop. And I think it does a good job of that. I like the little sort of jagged sawtooth edges on the leaves. I think rose bushes have that, which I think is kind of the point. But yeah, great art on this one. Really like how much the contrast of those bright primary colors, even this little yellow streak here, really stand out here. And yeah, looks pretty good. Now this one is very interesting because it uses a very, very different sort of style as far as how much little bitty detail there is. I like the environment. I like the rose bushes in the background, and I do like that super intricate detail. I'm not super huge on the random vines, thorny vines coming out the middle of these little rose bouquets. I think, especially considering the sort of elegant posing of the Roselia, that the Roserade would have done something similar, especially with this really beautiful sort of style they're going for with these expressive very linear brush strokes. I think it would have made a lot more sense to have it flaunting off its roses or something in the middle of its rose garden, but instead it's hitting the stanky leg. I don't know, man. And its neck looks a little it looks like a little bit bobbleheady here. Not a huge fan, but I do kind of like the style. It's pretty neat. This one is really cool. So just looking at the environment that the Turtwig is placed in, it's this deep dark forest, but the sun is overhead. You can see that there's some shadow being cast here, so it's just peeking up over the top of the trees. That's why the back of this stump is all backlit. And he's got sort of he's just walked around the stump and found you, and I like that sort of oh hello sort of expression he's got. Makes him look very curious. It's very adorable, and even these little flecks in the air do so much to sell that it's the early morning, the sun's rays are illuminating the little dust specks in the sky that are kind of being stirred up by this Turtwig walking around. I really like it, and I really like how minimal the detail is on some of this on some of these little flowers and stuff. These are just tiny little blobs that they are yeah, the viewer's gonna see that, and they're gonna see flowers, and they don't need to put any more detail on that. And I like a lot that this does not have hard edges. I think it really contributes to that soft sort of feeling, and that backlit glow also contributes a lot to that. It feels like a very gentle sort of moment, which I think works really well here. Now, transition to this Grotle, which really, really cool art. Gives me almost Ken Sugimori vibes with the way they've done the shading and the highlighting, with that just straight up just using the white to show these highlights, almost like a watercolor looking fill-in, but an inked pen texture all around. I love the hatching. It really feels like this Turtwig this Grotle is in the middle of an intense fight with all the whooshes and special effects is showing him ripping backwards, and he's got little scuffs all over him, but he's still scrapping with this little smile on his face. Really, really good job telling a story with this art. And the background's not flashy because it doesn't have to be. You're mostly entranced by, oh, who the heck is this Grotle fighting? It looks super cool. Going on to the EXs. EXs are a little weird because they're always this sort of like 3D model-ish sort of thing. That being said, I don't love this Torterra's, like, the way that this is done. I like that, like, the foot's blurred. It looks like it's stomping, it's roaring, like, it looks like it's angry. But I think that one of the biggest things about Torterra is, like, its shell and its back. And you can, like, just barely get a glimpse of the little spikes and the tree. And it seems like you're missing out, you know? Like, yeah, Torterra's head is, like, prominent here because it's roaring, but, like, I don't know. I feel like it's always hard with the EXs because they have such little space to work with. They have to make it look big, so it's obvious it's like, you know, a big EX card. So yeah, not super huge on the art here. That being said, big Torterra fan, big fan of the fact that Torterra is coming to Standard. Hopefully it's viable because I would love to run a Torterra deck. This Shaman Skyform is super cute. They did a really good job of getting the big sort of anime eye with like all those little like details in it, with the little like glimmers. You can see the little reflections of pink petals. Really pretty seeing the sun breaking right over the sunset. Again, that sort of backlit, but this time you can see it's very different than the Turtwig, right? Because this time we can see that there are these hard black edges. So this Pokemon is not supposed to be in some sort of a vulnerable state. It's more of standing proud, looking out onto this sort of sun-glowing, you know, early morning, beautiful pink flower field. And yeah, no, I like it. It's very different. It's going for something much different, but I think it's doing it very well. Not a super flashy card, but good art. I like it a lot. Same kind of goes for this Cottony. Cottony's adorable because it looks like a little lamb with its little leaf ears, but I don't know, the perspective here is kind of throwing me off a little bit because we have sort of this background, and if we're looking at the horizon line, there's a little like sea or ocean just beyond these little hills. There's this little path, and all that's like lining up. It looks like it's got the right perspective. You're looking out at a scene. But what I'm seeing here is that this like cart almost looks like you're looking at it from overhead. So that confuses the perspective quite a bit. And then there's like these bushes that seem to be right in the middle of the path, unless they're like part of some plant that's in front, like in the foreground. I don't really know. I think this art could have been much cooler if it didn't have the weird wobbly cart here, and if instead of all these plants, it was maybe just like a field of these little cotton bulbs around the Cottony. I think that would have been beautiful. And it's got the nice fluffy, you know, clouds in the sky. It would have tied together really well, I think, with Cottony itself. But I like the size of the Cottony here. It seems, you know, like it's the main focus of the image. I think it's one of those that, like we said earlier, with sometimes the background doesn't have to be flashy, but because, you know, the Pokemon's supposed to be the center of attention, I definitely think that's the case here. But I don't know, the background's still just causing me some issues. Moving on to this really cute Whimsicott. Again, at the forefront of this image is this cute little smiley face on a giant puffball, and it's very cute. I like the little clouds or the little puffs that are sort of falling off of it. And golly, the background on this one is really pretty. I don't think I ever really noticed it on my first time viewing, but yeah, look at the little trees down here. This beautiful what is that, water? Is that just like fog in some distant mountains? I don't know, but like I love that it's like you can see some color, and it's like yellow, it's warm, so it's like a sunrise, but even then looking up in the sky you can still see almost what seem to be like little stars in the fading night sky. It makes it seem like Jumpluff's jumping up and it's starting the morning, and I like that a lot. I think it fits Whimsicott. It fits Whimsicott very well. But moving on, we got a Heatmore. I don't think I looked too much at this one. Interesting. Okay, so I like this background a lot. I really like that it's like down in this cave. It's burrowing because it's, you know, it's an anteater, and it's like got this full moon. The trees are all backlit. That looks great. And what I really like that this card is going for is this sort of object source lighting, right? This little fire lash, this little fiery tongue that's sticking out here is illuminating the rocks, and his little like drips of fire coming off of him are illuminating the cave around him as it starts to get darker and further away from the moonlight. The one thing I think that's hanging me up here is Heatmore doesn't really, like, I guess he's standing on rocks. It almost looks like this was an image that they made and they started to incorporate, Heatmore with, like, the flames being in and lighting up the rocks. And I was like, well, where does he stand? I don't know. Let's just have him float there. So, like, I don't know. It's a cool pose. I think that this seems like a pose that would go on, like, a blank background, Like, it doesn't really feel like he is in this environment, if that makes sense. That being said, it is a cool pose. Got the, the claw sort of reaching out in front of here, gives it some asymmetry. It's interesting to look at. Never noticed what thunder thighs this guy's got before. Good lord. But, pretty good art. I think it could be a little better, though. So this Sizzlipede is sure there. It is a Sizzlipede. It's a bug. It's doing its thing. Gotta say, not a fan of the background. I get that it's going for, like, a certain style, with, like, this almost, like, childlike drawing and these, like, details that, like, are deceptively, like, they're more complex than they look at first glance. Like, if you look at this grass, there's a good deal of color mixing going on in each of these little strands. And the tree has got some neat little, like, lines on it. But, like, honestly, I'm just not a big fan of the, like, what do we do for a background? I don't know. Let's just mishmash some blue and green and yellow and draw a couple green lines on it and bada boom. This looks like the type of background that a kindergarten teacher would pin their students' drawings on. Like one of those big, like, paper boards, And yeah, it's not doing it for me. Not a huge fan of this one. This one's pretty cool. It's not very different from some of the other Centiskorch cards we've seen, but I like the lighting. I like the background, the sort of, like, amber sky and, like, these craggy, like, valley in between these large peaks. Definitely seems like a cool environment for Centiskorch to be in, and I like that he's sort of, like, adhering to the shape of the land, right? Like, it really looks like, with these, like, legs positioned the way they are, it really looks like he's, like, skittering about. And yeah, I don't know, that's cool. I like the posing. I like him looking over the shoulder. That's always a cool detail and trying to make your Pokemon look cool. Yeah, good solid B+ card. I like it. It's good. Another EX. Gotta be honest, I'm not loving this art, and I wonder how much of that is just an extension of the whatever this thing is called, the Paradox Entei's design. The colors are interesting. His expression is cool. I do like the expression here, the sort of, like, primal, like, rage that he's got going on. But honestly, like, the claw slashes are, like, real curved when it looks like it's supposed to be coming down. I don't know. I don't think this is it. I think this is not a super great art on this one. I think it, like, I don't know. I think in an effort to fit his giant head crest, it just makes him look small. But then again, if they had zoomed in a little much, I'd be like, where's the head crest? You can't see enough of it. So I think it's just kind of emblematic of how hard it is to make the EXs look prominent in these tiny little windows. But they try. They bring the claw out in front of the art, and there are some, like, older, 2-prize simple cards like this that didn't bother to do anything like that. And so you got to appreciate the fact that they're making that effort to really make it look it's reaching out and grabbing into the card, and that's cool. That's cool. I can respect it. This is really pretty. Little Totodile swimming. It's a little odd. I've never noticed it until getting closer here, but it almost looks like it was done in MS Paint, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. I mean it as you can kind of see the choppiness, I guess, of the lines on, like, around the edges and everything. But it makes for a really cool sort of style, and I don't really think I gave it that much credit, but the real thin lines can be difficult to do. I think that it makes the Pokemon's colors work a lot better in its favor, and here, like, even with, like, pretty muted colors, this Totodile feels like it belongs in this environment. It feels like this is a more mundane slice of life, like picture into the Pokemon world. But this is really cute, and he's holding a stick, and he's such a good little crocodile dog, and I like it. This is a good art. Now this one, I gotta point out the artist's, or the illustrator's name is Jerky, which I love. Really cool colors here. It's very different from the Totodile, where it felt very mundane. This one feels very vibrant. Really cool job of like mixing the sort of foreground and background of these like little seaweed or whatever these little water plants are, and having him swim right through it I think is really cool. What might have been even really cool now that I'm thinking about it is if like he was sort of, if he had some of the seaweed, like maybe that's what they're going for here, sort of like draping off of him as it's like he's swimming over the top and like sort of running over it. It would give it more of a feel of like a predator, skulking through the bushes. But I mean, it's also not the full evolution, so maybe it's not meant to look that much intimidating. It's more meant to look just sort of fun, and it looks fun. I like this art. I think it's a good one. I like the choice to use like pink as the river bed or the ocean bed or whatever this is. And the little bubbles do a great job of adding some detail. I think I would have liked some variance in like the size and like distribution of them. It feels very much like they had a bubble tool that just went and just like put them around. It doesn't feel like the bubbles are actually, being caused by any movement underneath the water. But still, I think this one's good. Now we're back to more standard Pokemon card art, where it's meant to look cool and imposing. This is a final evolution. He's going to wreck some face, and he's bursting out of the water, and he's got his big jaw. It's featured prominently. It's open. He's got his claws rushing forward. Very, very cool posing here. As when we were looking at the Heatmore and seeing, it looks like it's just floating there. This one looks like it's floating here, but it does so in like with a purpose. He is bursting. He's leaping out of the water like a crocodile would. He's jumping out, and I think what I might have liked to see more here is like some of the water or like swamp goop, because there's always that algae and stuff. You can see some of it in the foreground and coming off of him here. I would have liked to see maybe even a little more of that, and maybe if this is meant to evoke a crocodile jumping out of the water at its prey, maybe even some more like ferocity here, because it almost just looks like he's got his mouth open, but like the kind of goofy tongue is not giving me like serious killer croc vibes. But I think the little like cat eye here gives it a good predatory feel. The big teeth, obviously, and I think the rounded muzzle also doesn't do it much favors in looking intimidating, but he still manages to do so. I think this is good. I like this one. Wow, I didn't notice when looking at this one originally that they have the little Carvanas in the background. I really like that in this sort of like, it almost looks like a shipwreck. And what does confuse me a little bit is what's like illuminating this guy. Like if he were swimming up to the surface and you could see his brethren like skulking around deeper in the waters, that would be really, really cool. But I like this. I like this front-facing angle, making it seem like, that whole stick about predators with their eyes on the front of their heads. This is why. Like, this is what the prey would see when it's about to get attacked by a pack of Carvana, and I do really like that. I think that was a really good choice by the artist here to really, like, sell the fact that this is a dangerous Pokemon. And, of course, the big jagged jaw does a lot of that. The Pokemon's design helps a lot with that, too. But I really like something, too, that I don't think would go noticed here a lot, is the sort of like wave texture, right? We can see the surface of the water. He's not too far down, so the light, reflecting off the surface of the water is leaving this sort of reflection on his head. And that is a really cool detail, especially how it bounces off the ridge of his brows here and off the like top of his jaw. Like I said, I think the one thing that kind of confuses me is where this sort of light is coming from, but I really like this. And hey, like I said earlier when we were looking at the Croconaw, look at where these bubbles are. They're just sort of randomly dispersed around. Look at where these bubbles are, right around the movement. This guy is coming at you. There's not just bubbles plastered everywhere, and they're varying sizes and shapes. Really makes it seem more like a this is from movement. Really makes me feel like this Pokemon is in the scene. It's really good. Now this one is definitely interesting. I have expressed some opinions in the past of not being super in love with the more highly detailed drawings, the sort of Kamiya art style of like the art rare Drowsy from Scarlet Violet base set, right? There's just too much detail going on. The Pokemon's not featured prominently. This is how you do highly detailed right, because look at this art. The little orange clouds all around here, almost weirdly enough, with the shading they have, almost reminded me of like a Dr. Seuss drawing, in that like the way that they're shaded. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but good God, look at the moon here, and look at how they, such interesting color choices to make the moon a verdant green and make the highlights of it this yellow, when that has nothing to do with the sort of colors that have been played in here. But it really, really stands out. And I think that a little further, and it might have been too much, but I think that it's just enough to make this feel really cool. And even just like the water down here, there's not much of it, but good Lord, like all the little black and the bright green and blue and white reflecting really sells that this is what it's reflecting. That little green in there, it's like really subtle, but it's like that's the moon reflecting off the water, and it really draws you in. And of course, the number one complaint I have about these cards that have too much detail typically is that the Pokemon isn't featured enough. And this one, I don't know if you could feature him anymore. He's jumping out of the water. He's got all this really cool shading going on here with all these like scratches. It really looks like scratches of color going into the Pokemon, and that is so sick. It really fits a rough, Sharpedo's known for having the rough skin ability in the games. He's a shark. He's not pleasant to touch or cuddly. Really gives him an edge that I think is great for the Pokemon, great for making him look more serious, because really when you look at him, the fact that he doesn't like have a tail and he just is like a little guy, a little pill-shaped guy with fins, is not that intimidating, but you don't even think about that when you look at this art. It's really, really well done. This one is cute. I am not sure about the posing. It seems like it's supposed to be a Keldeo sort of prancing around on the water. I like it. I mean, the Crown Zenith art rare did a much better job of like having an environment in which that was sort of a spectacle. Here it just feels like, okay, maybe you're sitting around, you see a Keldeo run past you on the water, and you can see it sort of like trotting. I like the fact that its legs are kicking up and the waves are sort of pushed back. I like that the background sort of drowned out by this sun glowing off the water really gives it a cool, like, mystical glow, kind of like we were talking about with some of those other cards, like the Whimsicott and the Turtwig, where it's like that soft, warm morning glow. And I like how still the water is, other than the Keldeo disrupting it. But even then, the disruption isn't much. It looks like it would fade away very quickly, which makes it feel more serene. So all that is to say, this is a very well done art. It's just not super, it's not something to talk about. It's not something to write home about. I think it's well executed and it's well done, but I don't really feel that you need to even really talk about it that much more now. It just seems like it's a good art. I mean, how many, like, there are other Snom cards that are so similar to this one. I like the one of him on a bench, because it at least puts him somewhere new. I do like this one, but it's with Snom, it's like, how many different poses are you really going to draw Snom in? Like, come on. You just got to put him in different environments. That being said, this is a good environment. I like that we can see his little, like, trail that he sort of squirmed his way through the snow. We can see other little trails of other little Snoms that have squirmed there with his snow. I like little plants sticking out, trees with snow on the leaves. I like that it's going downhill. It almost looks like they're sledding very slowly. It does a good job of establishing the environment and making the Pokemon feel like it belongs there. So kudos on that. The Frostmoth. Now this is an interesting one. My first thought is, God, this city is gorgeous. The Frostmoth, like, I don't even care about the Pokemon in here. Look at the, like, aurora of light up here. Look at how the moon almost blurs out because there's so much more spectacle to see. Normally, when you're looking at the night sky, the moon is the prominent feature. No, this is a beautiful, crystalline city that this Frostmoth is dancing around in, and I really like this art almost just for the background, right? This Frostmoth isn't too different than the Sword and Shield Frostmoth. Like, the art and the posing is not that much different. I am also noticing the Snom model up here, it's like weirdly turned sideways. I've never noticed that, but that's kind of odd. But I mean, that doesn't count. This looks good. I think this is very well done. I don't think it's breaking any ground as far as the Pokemon is concerned. It's not really giving it much of a personality here, but the background is so beautiful, I do not care. This is a very funny one. I like this art. It's very simple. It looks like it did not take nearly as long to do as something like this. But golly, is this a good art? It's just, it establishes so much personality, because look at all these other Wiglets that are too stupid to even have their heads in the frame. This guy did it by accident. He wasn't even trying. They just accidentally gotten him in the frame, and otherwise this would have just been a bunch of white lines. He's a goober. He's silly. That's what Wiglet's there for. It's named Wiglet. Like, what else do you want out of a Pokemon? This is very cute. It's not the most exciting, so I'm not like super hype about this art, but it's good. It's well done. And I feel like I'm saying that a lot for some of these like Pokemon, but there are definitely some highlights coming up for sure. Another art where we don't see a lot of outlines on the Pokemon done to make them look a little softer, and I like that. Palafin's a cute Pokemon. These big fluffy clouds, the ocean, the sort of not warm, but like vibrant blue color of it really makes me think this is out in the middle of the ocean. You're on a little, barge or raft or something, and you just see this little Palafin, woohoo, splish splash out of the water. I will say maybe it looks a little bored as far as its like facial expression, but this is its everyday life. It's just having a good time. I like this card. This is a good card. On the counterpoint, look at this Palafin, bro. He is in the spotlight and he is living for it, which totally makes sense. I like his giant rubber gloves. I like the downward looking upward camera angle with the city in the background. Really makes him feel larger than life. This is a really good art. I'm a big fan of this one. If Palafin was a design that I loved more, I think this would be like, I would want to collect this card. This is a very cool card art. I like it a lot. I'm going to start trying to go through these a little faster because, man, I'm barely through the water types of the first set. Walking Wake, it's alright. It's another EX 3D model. Don't love it. Same with the Wug Trio. I guess I like that. I kind of wish they all had light bulbs on their heads, That'd be kind of funny. But I guess this one's the big head honcho. He's got the light bulb. The other two are just kind of like angry about it, but he seems like he's, pretty angry himself. So, I don't know. Not really anything too remarkable here. What a little round lad. Like this one a lot. Almost seems like a cartoon. And I like that. I like that he's just sort of floating there. I like his little bubbles from his little mouth being open. The big shimmery eyes here reflecting all sorts of nonsense. Again, really good job with anytime you're doing an underwater art, I feel like these little bubbles, springing off of the coral and everything really makes it feel alive. Well done here. I love the surface of the water too. Looks great. Now this one might be, this is a sleeper. This is a good one. And it might be one of my favorite like basic card arts of the set. This Azumarill is not doing anything too crazy. I don't think this is like a mind-bending work of like talent, but look at this little guy. He's just a little guy, and look how cute. His little ears bent. What is he even under the water? It kind of looks like he's under the water. I bet he's under the water. I think this is meant to be the surface, and these are meant to be bubbles. But look at the pretty yellow flowers contrasting with the bright cerulean blue of this Pokemon's design, with the little white bubbles and the little reflections of the water surface on these rocks back here I didn't even see before. These flowers, I love them. The real dark verdant green with that bright dandelion yellow just looks so good, and just to slap a nice, soft, cute little bunny, water bunny right in the middle, that's a good art. I'm putting this one in my binder. This is one I'm excited to get. Wow, now this one, look at the like chunky brush strokes here and all the different colors on this Bronzor. Come on, that is so well done, and it's so different. I can't tell you a single other card in this set that I've seen so far that has this sort of style. And it's kind of weird because the closer you get, the like less like real life it looks, but it almost gives me like, I want to say like Dali sort of like, I don't know if that's correct. I'm not going to pretend I know anything about like art history, but like it's just so cool. It looks like this was done on canvas and they did so good on it. It's really well done. This is a fantastic piece of art here. Really, really like it. The Bronzong is not as striking. However, the background goes kind of hard. I love the detail, the thin line work on this little river right here. The stones, the big, like, floppy sort of columns of flowers laying over because of the rain, the thunder crashing in the background of the mountains. It's such an, like, expressive background that to put a Pokemon like Bronzong that does not have any capability to express anything feels like a weird choice. That being said, it's done competently. The little rain driplets like splashing off of his hard metal surface totally makes sense. I can't tell if he looks concerned or happy or is trying to be intimidating. It's kind of why I'm a little lost on how to feel about this art. But you know what? I like it. It's good. It's got a good thing going on in the background. I love the little like cracks through the clouds where the lightning is just pouring out. It's a cool art. I like it. The Solosis is very cute. It doesn't seem like there's much to go off of as far as the background. Really cool. If you just take a second and look at this, the through thought of this image is this is this is an alleyway by two brick buildings. And it totally reads as that. But now look at just the colors here. If we completely block off everything to the left of this, look at the redness of this brick, right? Look at how red that is. Now look over here. Look how yellow, whoops, sorry about that. Look how yellow this brick is, how green it gets here, and how blue it is here. There's 4 different colors to this brick, and it still all reads as the same piece of, or the same type of material. It's all just lighting effects, and that's really hard to do without that standing out as this is a blue wall and this is a red wall. No, this is all the same brick being used. It's just the lighting, and that's really cool. And yeah, you can see that the building obviously goes off up here and like casts a shadow, and that's sort of reflected in the Solosis. It's really cool. It's a good art, and I think that detail is especially cool. Duosion looks great. Not sure what he's doing out in the forest. Cool little shit. Like the light pouring through the trees as always with these little rays. I like how different and how crazy different the contrast is on these trees. This still reads as a tree, but it goes from bright white to dull greenish gray with very little in between, but it's like not even like a gradient in between. It's like a choppy in between. It really gives the trees a feeling of like texture to them. And from far away, that's well done. They did a good job with this. The grass is interesting. It's not flat. It's got all sorts of these little, I don't even know what these little dots are. I don't care. It makes the grass look textured, and it looks good. This is a good art. Same with this Reuniclus. Maybe a little less so, because I don't really know what's going on with the twisting water. It looks like he's maybe spinning around. I don't know. I'm not super sold on this one. I like the Solosis and the Duosion more. I think they fit a little bit more in the environments they're in. This one doesn't really have much of an environment. Maybe it's like coastline or something. But I don't know. I don't really associate Reuniclus too much with the water. But I mean, he could be around it. There's no reason he couldn't. He's all jelly anyways. So sure, why not? It's not a bad art. It's okay. Not my favorite. This Fluttermane is pretty cool. I like the smirk. I like the insinuation that just shot this little ball of ghostly magic here, and it's sort of like warping and forming around that little core. That's very cool. Yeah, not anything too crazy. The spikes give it that primal look, but that's more to do with the Pokemon's design itself than the design of this card. But yeah, no, well done. I think, as is the case with both Fluttermane and this Reuniclus, I think the Illustrator rares down the road just absolutely blow these out of the water, and they're so good that I can't really like look at this and be like, that's a good Misdreavus card, when I can see very clearly what the apex of a Misdreavus or a Fluttermane card looks like. I really like this Relicanth, and there is a point I want to make much later on when we get to the Drampaw, and I want to make a note of it now. This Relicanth is swimming through this environment. It looks very flat. He's right here in the front. He's moving right to left. There's little bitty bubbles. It almost looks like a comic book. But look at the colors going on here. Very pretty background. Pokemon's side view, very basic, but it works here because it's Relicanth. He's not pronounced. He's got this muddy, gray style to him with this big skull face. He's just an old man that's just trying to get from point A to point B. And he doesn't need to be doing anything fancy, and I think it works really well here. Cool effect on this card, too. I'm excited to see what strategies might get cooked up with that. Moving on to this Golett. I like the idea of Golett being in some sort of ruins with these columns sort of tipped over. The sort of geometric style of this is really cool, especially with something like Golett. Golett, who has got these sort of odd blocky shapes. These, like, look at this flower. It's like a parabola and a curved line. That and my brain says, yes, that's a flower. This is a circle. My brain says, yes, that's a flower, because look at the Golett. He sets the standard of, in the background, they set the standard of this is a geometric scene, and it fits. It works really well. This is competent. This is well done. Wow, this Golurk is really cool. It's very, very different. Look at the tiny little details on this. I mean, go crazy. Look at this, the time that this must have taken to put all these little details in, and the fact that this background is 99% the color red, but it still reads as a sunset on a grass, like a windswept grassy plain with these ruins sort of peeking out of the ground, this sort of tree that's in between, leafing and losing its leaves. The sky has so much variance for it. It's all just red, and it's so well done. And the lighting on the Golurk reflects that, and it's so cool. His little ghostly glow is illuminating his own armor with the yellow cracks and the yellow swirls and runes. And he's just kind of chilling. And I love this almost like Iron Giant feeling of like he's just petting the mossy rock or the bush or whatever that is, and he's just looking at you like, oh hey, what's up? Like, I'm just vibing. This is just what I do. I like it. It's a very good card. I like this one a lot. If I was a bigger Golurk fan, this would be for the binder for sure. Very cute Mudspray, or Mudbray, playing in the mud. He's got that sort of same like bright white highlighting going on that we saw with the Grotle. But this is much more placid sort of a scene. He's just making a mess, having a good time, having fun. This is a cute card. I would debate putting this in the binder just because he's just a little guy, and I like him. He's good. The Mudsdale, on the other hand, I don't know if he is supposed to be stamping with the way the rocks are flying or like kicking them back, like taking his hoof and digging the ground and kicking it back. His head's lowered. He's trying to look intimidating, but he mostly just looks ambivalent. And there is so much nothing going on with the background here that I like the style that they kind of went for with like very soft edges and like the amount of variance within. It does give him sort of a fuzzy look, which I really like. But there's so little going on with the background here that it's hard to get excited about this one. Excuse me, I had to get some water. So this Roly-Poly is really cool. What I love about this is that it almost has this sort of like charcoal drawing feel to it with the way that this wheel is done and the shading, almost like this like hatching. This is like a charcoal drawing, and it makes so much sense for Roly-Poly. This is such a smart design for a Roly-Poly card. And like, even though like the train, like sure, he's like a mining thing and he's like kind of peeking out here, the light is in the back and it's sort of like he's advancing into the dark cave. I do like the little glow around his little eye, illuminating the surrounding areas orange. But like the train isn't even like, it's cool, but it's just a train, But, like, just the fact that it's got this, like, charcoal drawing look on a roly-poly card is such a good fit. Really impressed with this one. This Carkol I'm not as much of a fan of. I think the best praise I could give it is this gives me a more manic energy of Carkol than I think I've ever had, because he is a cart. His wheels are blocky. He does not look like he would be a good cart at that. But look at this freaking Daredevil, bro. It reminds me of those old Donkey Kong Country levels where you're on the minecart barreling down at some Kremlins or whatever they're called. That's the energy I get from this. Don't love this art, but it's okay. It's passable. This one's pretty cool too. I really like, I think that if I did not associate Colossal with the tar generator Colossal that's played in GLC, I wouldn't like this one as much as I do. Because he's supposed to be looking sort of intimidating. He's got like all this glowy lava goop around him, but like it's not really glowing off of him at all. But I like the idea that this is all like a molten tar, and I think that it's communicated very well. I think the background, him sort of like it twisting around him, it gives you the feeling that he's sort of commanding it. And I think this is a good card. I like it. I think that there are a couple of things I could nitpick about, but why would I? It's a cool card. He's got the goop swirling around him. There's a little bit of grass left, but it looks like mostly desolate here. The background is done very well. Looks good. This Great Tusk is certainly interesting. He's stepping toward the frame. His nose is raised. You can see all those saw blade teeth going in there, all the spikes and everything. Certainly, this is a good design for his ancient card. Certainly. I really like Great Tusk. I think he's really cool, but I think if I harped too much on the design, I don't think it'd be doing an adequate job of, giving my opinion on this card art specifically. I think it's carried by the fact that Great Tusk is a really cool Pokemon. I think otherwise, I don't think I would like it very much. The tree in the background looks weirdly blurry over here, but not over here. There's detail you can see here, so why is it so blurry right here? Not a huge fan of this one, but Great Tusk is a really cool Pokemon. I like this one. It's very cartoony, very simple, but I will say Ekans looks quite a bit longer here than I think he usually does, which is a little odd. But he's wrapped around a tree. That's kind of neat. I think it's got a cool little cartoon aesthetic. I like the lighting and the way that it makes him look sort of slimy, the way that snakes kind of do. But it does a good job. I think that the lighting underneath the tree being darker, it being brighter out here, just looks like a nice little cartoon. This looks like, like the swiper of whatever his cartoon is. You know what I mean? Like it looks like he's the minor antagonist come to steal away the MacGuffin from the plucky protagonist. Maybe I'm going off on a, weird rabbit trail here, but that's the vibe I'm getting from this. And I like it. It's good. It's a good fit for Ekans. Really don't like this card. Really, really don't. Front-facing Arbok should be more intimidating than this. He's not. This flower should have more than tiny little white lines to indicate petals. It doesn't. Not a fan of this card. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's making me sad. This one's really cool. Love this. I get the feeling someone is in an old abandoned house and they're creeping down the creaky stairs and they turn their flashlight, and for a moment a Ghastly is surprised to be caught following them. Really, really good storytelling done here, and it's very impressive how well they carried the sort of flashlight effect of like how it carries down the stairs and how it, doesn't quite seep into all the cracks of the wood. But God, it's so well done here. This is a really, really good card. And all you Gengar fans, this is a banger. I would be very happy to have this Ghastly card in my binder if I was a big Gengar fan. This Haunter's alright. He's got a devious look to him. He's got the old cracked wall, makes me think it's an old abandoned building. Again, kind of illuminated by that light. But whereas in this one, it looks sort of like you found me, but I'm still going to get you. This one's almost like he's smiling, but he's almost surprised to be caught, So this one doesn't give me the same sort of like a mischievous energy. It gives me more of like a boogeyman energy. But, it's not bad. I think that Haunter has looked better in the past, but this is certainly not a bad Haunter card. Now, remember what I said about EXs generally not looking good? This is what all EXs should look like. This looks almost like more of like a hand-drawn, and maybe that's just what it is, but like look at the lighting around his claws. Look at he's like reaching out into the frame, and he's got this like devious little toothy grin and a swirling like phantasmal energy or whatever going all around him. It's a little bright. Maybe it could stand to be a little darker. It is a Gengar after all. Maybe all this bright blue could be replaced with like a navy. But I don't know, man. I'm just so happy to see an EX that looks like so cool. This is a really, from an artistic standpoint, this is a really cool EX, and it's definitely something worth getting excited about. Love the look of this. I think this might be the only one in the set that's worse than the Arbok. I don't like this one. Look at his, like, Arr! It does not look like he's howling at the moon. It looks like he's in pain. This is terrible. I do not like this. I do not like that one bit. I'm moving on. This, to me, seems like a less cool version of the art from the Fusion Strike. I think it was the Mighty Anna. It's got like the dead grass. It's a cool environment. It's definitely a cool style. It seems like a little more realistic than most Pokemon are in their arts, and I think it's pretty good. Not bad. I like this one. Sableye being a little gremlin as always. I think Sableye's looked a lot better in the past. I think there's been several arts where he is, digging around, finding some gems. He looks a little less manic in this one than I think Sableye should. I think he looks a little more like, aha, I have found a gem. Not like, my precious, like, let me hunch over this and try to keep it safe. He just looks more like, oh, yeah, this is cool. And, that's fine, but, like, he's a little gremlin. He's a little gem gremlin. Let him be a gremlin. Let him go goblin mode. Don't love Roaring Moon's design, to be perfectly honest. Not a huge fan, but, like, I don't know, especially here, it looks like his face, it looks like, you ever taken, like, a small dog that has, like, maybe, like, a little bit of, like, loose skin, and you, like, pull it back around their head, and their eyes sort of stretch backward? That's the energy I get from this, is it looks like someone has taken Salamance's face and just, like, stretched it backward, and it does not look flattering. I think the posing here is really cool. I think he's, like, taking flight over this world. That's really fun. But I can't get past the stretched face. Not a huge fan. This one, I really like this one. This is really cool design as far as the posing here. He's lurching forward. He's reaching out with that claw. He's bringing it down. And he's like in this sort of like action stance, like ready to pounce. And I don't think normally that would sell well for Koraidon. But look at the glow of his eyes. If that is not the eyes that you see peering out of a dark, creepy bush in the jungle, then, bro, those aren't the right eyes. Those are absolutely, these are the eyes of a killer, and I love that. It almost reminds me of, like, Rengar from League of Legends, where it's just, like, this apex predator on the hunt in the jungle. I think this could be even cooler if it were, like, during the night, but I totally get it. Really like this guy and the way he looks. Really like this card. Big fan. Cool card. Excited to see how the effect comes into play. Hate the art. Hate the art on this. This looks like a wacky inflatable tube man with a bad Dr. Eggman mustache. Not a fan. Not a fan at all. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. This Hoot Hoot is not spectacular, but I love the magenta and royal purple color scheme, even though it has no similarities to Hoot Hoot's color scheme. Hoot Hoot is very plain, other than those big red eyes. And I just really like the simplicity of the background on this. This is a card that I would want to paint. It's not one I would think I would collect and be super excited about putting in my binder, but I would want to paint this card. It looks so cool. I like it. I love the color choice, and that's really the most notable thing here. The little stars are cool, but I really like the color choice. All right, now this is a banger. And this is not the kind of, like I said, a lot of the time when I'm looking at these and saying, like, I want that one in my binder, it's usually because they're a little cute guy and they're just a little guy. This is not a little guy. This is a bird of prey that has not been taken seriously enough out on the prowl. This dude is looking to hunt some Rattata, and I do not blame them for being scared. Look at the detail on this guy's like crest and his, or not his crest, his chest and his wings, and the blocky sort of like, man, like if you zoom in on this background, it just looks like weird geometric shapes, but when you zoom out, you can see, oh my god, the environment lines up so well. These clouds with the clear night sky and the moon shining through. This is so cool. Really good art. Really like this one. Now, I don't know how I would respond if someone told me to draw a Dunsparce in a dynamic pose. Homeboy doesn't have arms. How are you gonna do that? This guy figured out a way. Mr. Sakuma, he figured it out. He said, look at this guy's little drill tail. I'm gonna show the little drill effects. He's going down. There's all this spinning energy, and he's hunched over because he's just a little dum-dum. Really good. Really good job making Dunsparce feel dynamic, which is not an easy task. That being said, not the flashiest card in my eyes. Not the biggest fan of it, but it's cool. I like it. This one's really cute. Reminds me of some sort of like a mobile game where you're digging around with a little Dunsparce under the ground trying to find little pockets of gems and avoid the water to be drowned out. It's cool. I like it. I think that it's very cute. I like the sort of like soft edges that it's got going on, as I've kind of mentioned before. I like all the rich detail without it subtracting too much away from the Dunsparce. I think this is a good card. It's a good art. I don't think I'm super excited about this one, but it's well done. This, I think, looks... Realistically, it's not my favorite. I think that if, in most circumstances, if this were like another Pokemon, I would just be like, golly, this is so freaking ugly. But as someone who has owned a pet bird in the past, when I tell you, you try to get a picture of them and they give this weird, like, curious lean in and they look like an alien, this captures that so well. It's not a super good looking card though, so I can't really give it too much credit. But to its credit, it captures that weird manic bird energy. Like the, what's this? What are you doing? Really well. I like that. They did a good job with that. Not a fan of the 3D, like clay Pokemon put in real life sort of like style of cards. They have them pretty often along with like the crocheted ones. I think there's like a C-Dot later that has one of those. Not a huge fan of those. I mean, it's fine. They did a good job sculpting this little Minccino. And yeah, it's okay. Not really anything to comment on there. Really like this Chinchino though. The glow coming down from above makes this feel like almost like a magical forest, the little like glowy bits as well, but like the way that this light bounces off these plants, and if the light, were coming straight down on the Minccino, you might think it would just go from white to gray, but look at the little bits of green and yellow in her fur. That's all those plants reflecting that light, and oh my god, it just really makes it look stunning, especially with like the under lighting for the eyes. You can see that the lighter shades of the eyes are beneath, gives it that like that brownish sort of like cocoa color that fits really well with Minccino's color scheme. This is a good art. This is a very good art. Big fan of that one. I'm not going to spend too much time on the trainers because really what am I supposed to say about these? These look delicious. That's the comment I'll make. Not really anything too crazy here. This guy's kind of cool. He looks a little bit Cheeto colored to be a hiker. I would expect maybe a little bit more of a natural tan, but we gotta draw attention to ourselves somehow. I'm not gonna flame this guy for getting a spray on. He's he seems like an upstanding dude. He seems like a good adventurer. This lady goes crazy. I like the pose here. She was kind of cool in the games. I don't know, the Team Star people were never really that interesting to me, but cool costuming. Cool face paint, cool hair. I like it. This is a really good supporter art. Because like look at this, look at the Rika or whatever her name is, right? She's in front of her base. Sure, that seems like where she'd be. But honestly, if you cropped her out and just put her on any background, I could see that being about the same effect. You cannot say the same for this Morty card. Look at this is the house that Ghastly was in earlier, man. Like this really like grandiose old chateau sort of like, golly, man, Morty looks so cool here. And really, like, looking at him just as a character, his costuming and everything, he's not that cool looking. But golly, if he doesn't look like such a cool guy right here. Big fan of this. Really like how this trainer card turned out. The supporter card, rather. But let's take a look at this. I don't even know what this card's called, but oh my god, I want it. I want a full art of this. Look at the bubbly, toxic, swampy, the trees bending over. They're not growing up because there's not sun. It's just toxic ooze and these plants sort of facing down and almost like looking withered because of that, but still having that vibrant green to contrast that neon pink. Golly, this is really good art. This is fantastic, bro. I would love to paint a little like Pokemon or two in here, just in this environment. Maybe a little Krogunk or something hopping around. This is such a cool art. Big fan of that one. Don't really have anything to say about this. And now we're on to the Cyber Judge cards. So I'll try to be a little quicker. Golly, I've been at this almost an hour now. So I'll try to be a little quicker with this set. Scyther looks derpy here. I know he's supposed to look cool. It's a cool pose. I like all the swishy slashes and the bamboo still in the air from being cut because he's so fast. But, like, take a second and maybe step out of the perspective here. If this Scyther was not stepping forward into the frame, look at how weird his legs would look. And I get that that's the point of, like, the perspective, but like, I almost can't get past, like, once you see it, you can't unsee it sort of thing. Like, he has a tiny little right leg and a big honking left foot, and his eyes are too close together, and he just looks weird. Not a fan of this one. But I like the positive aspect, I like the way they did the shading. It's sort of, like, linear, like, almost like hatching of it is really cool. That's well done. This one is this is another sleeper, I think. Look at how gorgeous these like trees are in the background, and look at the soft lighting. Pineco has never looked more cuddly, and this Pokemon should not look cuddly. He is a pine cone. But look at his little derpy eyes. Oh my god, oh, whoops. Oh geez. Okay, hold on 1 second. Hold on, let me get back. Golly, we were so far down too. All right, here we go. Look at how cuddly and derpy this little guy looks. I'm a big fan of this Pineco card. This is a good one. This is a banger. This is like an 8 out of 10. Really good. Again, not a huge fan of these like crocheted ones. I just can't get on board with them, especially with like the weird like felt looking leaves and background. The positive aspect, I guess I'll say, little acorns on the branch, little sea dots back here. Really cute. Like it. Front-facing Nuzleaf is cursed. Get rid of his stupid boy nipples. Other than that, background looks really cool. I like the orange contrast with the green. Looks good. Really good example of how far posing can go in establishing the attitude of your Pokemon. This Shiftry looks like he has just burst forward from this bamboo forest and is using his giant fan leaves to propel himself forward, and it's just shaking up the forest around him, but he'll be gone in an instant, and that forest will settle right back down to this peaceful zen sort of area that we see. And one thing I'm noticing too is the throughput of the orange sky and green dark, exterior carrying over here, and I like that really well. Except here, the Shiftry is looking down, he's flying forward, and it's like almost as if you could have gone beneath his notice, but he has taken notice of you. And his like little grit of his teeth, he looks very intimidating, and it's very well done. Really like this one. This one's very understated. I think the mushroom art is very pretty. I think Shroomish himself is a little understated and could be a little bit cooler looking here. I get that it's supposed to just be more of a relaxing picture, and that's fine. Not everyone has to look like really cool, but I think there's better examples of how to do this coming up soon. This Breloom looks really cool. I like the cream colored background for a forest. You don't see that very often. And his like intimidated stare. It looks like there's a showdown about to take place in this giant forest with these huge trees that stretch so far upward before they even start having branches. This looks like a very old forest that is about to have a classic showdown go down between this Breloom and somebody else. I'd love to see who. Now here's a good example of your Pokemon not being super crazy. This is a very simple pose, very simple Pokemon, but oh my god, the way that they did all of this color, look at the detail. Look at how many colors can you count just on this Deerling's back? It's insane. The variance of the detail here is so good. And again, the way that the light beams reflecting off of this thing and off these plants influence the color on this thing. Right around his heels, it's got that green. Oh my god, this looks so good. This is a binder card for sure. Love this Deerling. Really want this Deerling. So good. This Sawsbuck, on the contrary, seems a little bit more like sort of like a cell drawing. It doesn't seem like the colors are interacting with each other very much in this picture. That being said, I like the posing. He's going down for a little drink, very much looking like a deer. He's got the cool branches. He's got the cool leaves. It's a nice autumn feel. I think the colors do fine around each other, but they don't interact with one another nearly as much as they do in something like this. And I think it kind of feels a little bit more lifeless because of it. But still, not a terrible card. This one, I wish there was some more texture on the Grubbin. He's a creepy, gross little grub. I feel like he should have almost like a scaly or like bumpy texture to him, and instead he looks so smooth, and I don't think I like it very much. I like, and like even this was a stump he's standing on, maybe a rock. It doesn't look like a stump, but with the rings, I'm guessing it's supposed to be a stump, especially with the forest. The lighting is very good. I am a big fan of that soft glow, especially with like these little like fireflies or whatever going around. It's fine. The background's fine. The Grubbin I'm not a huge fan of. Saya Saruta, one of my favorite TCG artists. Not anything too crazy here. I like the way it's done. I love the sparkles on the water. I love the simple use of colors. Not too much variety in those colors on the waves and on the sort of brine of the water, but did a good job incorporating lots of variance into the seaweed that's sort of dripping off the Delmise. It's a very weird Pokemon to draw. Again, one of those Pokemon you can't really do anything super dynamic with them. But I think they did well here. I think this looks like a decent enough art. I don't know if it'd be going in the binder, but yeah, I think it looks good. I think it's got that classic Saya Saruta coloring around the edges that I think we'll see a little bit later with like a Torracat that got revealed early. But that's part of why I like them as an artist. I think that is a super cool way to go about illustrating your Pokemon. Looks good. Not really sure what to say about this guy. Interesting choice to make everything composed of little dots. I think that is a good stylistic choice, and they did a good job of using it to shade. I just think maybe as a personal preference, not my thing. And maybe it's just the fact that the subject matter is a little bit of, it's a little brambling, not super crazy Pokemon to like get a lot of shading in on, but they did a good job. This is an okay one. Not as much of a fan on this one, even though the detail is immaculate here and all the variants of the color they're using. The background's real blurred. The Pokemon doesn't really have much of like, I guess it's got kind of like a smile going on here. I don't know, it's tough to tell with like, it's not as personified as a Pokemon, but I think the art is okay. I think there's a lot more it could do, but there's a lot worse it could do. So, this art, I wish Rellor wasn't in it. It's beautiful. Look at this, below the light coming up on these like savanna trees. that beautiful galaxy in the background, and look at all the tiny little dots that they did on that. That is gorgeous. And then you stick the big fat Squidward honking, unibrow having, dumb looking Rellor right in the middle of it. Golly, the art is good. I don't like Rellor's design, but you know, he's supposed to be kind of gross, so sure, he's a dung beetle, whatever. The Rapska, on the other hand, very, very cool that they chose to have this sort of minimalistic forest background with these blues and greens and teals, and they chose to highlight it with this weird, almost goopy looking pink texture. And I really like it. It works very well for the abstract weirdness of Rabska, and I think it's good. I think they did a good job. I like this art. Its colors carry it, I think, but I mean, hey, the colors are there for a reason. Looks great. Golly, man, this thing is ugly as sin. I don't know if I can get past it. How are you supposed to feature this Pokemon when the only appealing thing about it is that it looks like the original Virizion somewhat? I think the only cool thing, I guess, about this is like the digital looking eye. Fits well with the future theme. But golly, man, this Pokemon's ugly as sin. I don't want to look at it anymore. This one's very interesting in that the sort of like I can't even tell what kind of background this is, but the choice to go really red with it, I think obviously it fits for Slugma. If anything, it sort of drowns him out a little bit, so not like the best, but I think it looks good. I think there's a lot of detail. It loses me a little bit in the detail. It's a little too much, I think. This one's kind of interesting. It's more of a like realistic glow. I think this one would be a lot cooler if the magma that Magcargo is made of itself was glowing, and it was illuminating the rock around it. It was illuminating his eyes, kind of like the fire is doing off his shell. He himself is made of magma. He should have just a little bit of a glow, but it almost seems like the sunset or moon or whatever it is that's backlighting him here has more of a glow than he does, and that sort of lessens how cool it could look for me, for sure. Golly, that's a really cute Victini. He's just sitting at a tree. He's surprised. Not my favorite. I don't love the posing. I don't love the background, but it's okay. It's alright. It's passable. I'm not mad at it. This is a really cool art because it's more of a high detail, but more like almost 3D-esque art, but it's not a 3D model. It's hand drawn, and they did a really good job of that little over that cat energy of like he's prancing along doing his own thing on top of a roof, mind you, but he still feels the need to look back and sort of give you that judging stare as if like, what are you doing up here? It's like, bro, what are you doing up here, you crazy cat? But it works. It fits Litten very well, and I like this one a lot. I think that it's not my favorite sort of style with that like sort of realistic look to it, but I think it's done really well here. Another Saya Saruta. I think this is the only other one in the set. I love Saya Saruta's art for a reason. Look at those like colors around the edges, how dynamic they are, how they make the Pokemon really pop. And Torracat's a really cool Pokemon too. I'm not the hugest fan of Incineroar. I love Torracat. He's so cute. Really like this. I like his little like almost mischievous smile, his little like pouncing stance. I really like this card. It's got a nice background with a good amount of color variety. Doesn't really... Oh, dude. And Saya Saruta. I need to go back and look at the Delmise now, but there's the Pokeball that they always hide in their arts. Hold on. We're going back. We're going back to look at the Let me go back here. Here's the Delmise. There he is. There he is. Let's see if we can find the Pokeball here. Yep, there it is. Right there. Look at that. Saya, good job. Good job with that. I like that you hide a little Pokeball in all your arts. That's great. Like I said, EXs, not my favorites. I will say to this one's credit, the texturing done to make it look like fur on all of his body is really well done. I don't like his sausage fingers. but that's more of a complaint with the design. I think the artist did a good job of managing him reaching out, kind of like the EXs do, with him still having all of his details and important recognizable aspects still in the frame. I think they did a good job with this one. I don't know what else there is to say. This Pikachu is very cute. I can't tell if this is like he's on a brick road and we're like over the top of him. I guess that's what it is. He's cute. I like him. He's good and chonky here. That's a good trait for a Pikachu to have, I think. But yeah, no, I like this one. It's cute. This Raichu is very well done. Look at him stretch. That is a big stretch from a little mouse boy. If anything, I think it would have been cute to maybe incorporate the tail in a slightly different way. Like maybe it's wrapped around him so he's like getting cozy. Seems a little weird that it's like hovering over him. Maybe if it was like shielding the sun from his eyes or something, I could see why it's up there. It does feel a little weird here, but it's too cute. The Raichu's so sleepy. I can't be mad at that. That's adorable. This is a really cool Electabuzz. Wow. Sort of looks like he's gripping onto the electronic energy and the rocks are beginning to like levitate or maybe be smashed. It looks like he maybe have like punched the ground here and the rocks are shooting up. But yeah, I don't love the perspective here, but the posing is really well done. Really, really cool looking Electabuzz. This Electivire, on the other hand, has some interesting posing. I like the little sparky bits going off his fingers. Where is he? Is he in a power plant? It's a metal wall. It's obviously some sort of facility. It's got electricity going around. Looks like maybe he broke out of a containment unit or something. Maybe he's supposed to be powering this place. I don't know. But I can't tell, and that's part of the problem here. I think it definitely could grow in that way, making me feel like the Pokemon's really in the universe here. But you know, it's fine. Not my favorite. Wow. See, this is another very, very detailed image. And I think a lot like the Grubbin, my only gripe that I could have is how smooth the Pokemon looks. Give him some like little creepy bumpy surface or something. Like if you're gonna get this detailed with the Pokemon, or with the background and like the whole drawing itself, give the Pokemon some more detail, man. He looks like he's made out of clay. I don't know. This Vigavolt's pretty cool. I like the sort of like swoosh. It looks like maybe he's like humming around like a little drone, getting ready to strike. He's swept some of these leaves in this tree out of the way. It looks like maybe he's getting into an aggressive position. And I think the fact that I can like infer all of that just from this static pose is really good. I think they did a good job with this card. Definitely not something I'm too excited about, but it looks good. This Zeraora is so freaking cool. Look at this guy. It almost gives me like Spider-Man vibes, right? Like slinging webs up atop of the city with this like glowing pink and yellow and purple metropolis underneath, with that starry sky in the background. He's just doing handstands. Feels like he's jumping around from rooftop to rooftop. Really, really like this art. Very cool. Speaking of arts I really like, this Iron Thorns is gorgeous. It is drop dead beautiful. I really like it. I think this personally looks better than the Illustrator Rare that we'll see later. But I really like the you can tell he just stomped or shocked or something, because these rocks are flying, his little scales are glowing, and it doesn't look like he's stuck in an ugly sweater with his arms up. They just sort of forward a little bit. I still wish his arms were a little bit more Godzilla-like, or like T-Rex-like, in that they had like some sort of a bend to them. But still, this is very well done. The detail and the shininess of him, he looks so shiny. And this sort of like industrial matte underneath complements it really well. It really makes the shiny part stick out. It's great. Not a fan of this. It's fine. It looks very cartoony. It sort of reminds me of the Ekans from before, maybe a little bit less so. I like the idea that Mr. Mime is in a sort of like beautiful vista, like tropical environment. It's kind of a unique environment for Mr. Mime to be in, but God, he's so creepy. I don't think I can get over the fact that he's just lurking and stepping closer to me. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't love this Girafarig. It's got a very muted background, and he's sort of like got some dull colors on himself. I think the one bit of praise I could give this is that the tail it's kind of funny that it's looking around like, oh, what's going on up there? I do like that. And maybe the implication here with all the swirling energy kind of around him is that when he evolves into the Farigiraf, it takes more of a prominent role. So sure. I think the fact that we can get that much meaning from it says a good deal to the fact that the artist did a good job. But if that tail was just facing back and this was just the art, I think I'd be a lot more bored. This cutie fly is so adorable. I love him. I love that he's like a little hummingbird, just like, ooh, what are these little flowers here in this lady's hat? This is a card I would love to paint if I was more talented, because I don't think I'd get all these little details of these little flowers, but like to extend that lady's hat and like have her walking along, maybe have another little cutie fly like buzzing after her, would be so cute. I love that this is sort of like this is something I could picture happening in the Pokemon universe. It looks really cute, and I really like it. I really like this cutie fly art. It's a good one. This Rabambi is also very cute. Love the colors in the background and how they contrast with its yellow color scheme. I like the soft edges. I like the sort of luminous glow of its wings with this like little moonbeams. I like the little kissy flowers. It's cute. It's a very cute card. Excited to see what it does. I really like Rabambi as a Pokemon. Would love to see it have a relevant card someday, but I don't know if this is going to be it. Now this one, man, you talk about wanting to make a Pokemon look intimidating with nothing but its posing. This thing looks like it could slice your damn head off. I love the way that this looks. And just like the stare and like that glowing pink eye. This is how you make a robot Pokemon look cool. And the swirling energy and the crackling of the like techno blade that he's got here. God, and he's like standing up on this like little plateau, and there's like other little plateaus around. This is such a good art. This one I'm not much for intimidating arts, but this one's going in a binder for me for sure, especially if I can find a reverse holo of this. Golly, with that like little digital pattern here, it looks so good. Love this card. Iron Crown has the same problem of looking like an ugly action figure as the other future robot paradox Pokemon of this trio do. Excited to play this card potentially in like a future box deck. Not excited about having to look at this art. Hopefully we can get some of the Illustrator rare ones. Another great example of posing, and look at how like bleh this background looks as far as colors, right? The detail isn't even that much. It's just kind of got these bleh brown and green grayish colors, and what really makes this stand out though as a really good art is not only the colors, those sort of dull colors making this meta-type pop, but look at the pose. He's staring at you, and he's got this leg cocked back and ready. It feels like the second you declare an attack with this guy, that leg is coming for and it's popping you right in the face. And that is really well done for fighting Pokemon. That's like really all you can ask an artist to do when it comes to drawing a fighting type Pokemon, is make it look like it's about to punch you in the face. Now the Medicham misses for me. Not a huge fan of this. It's got some interesting colors. They definitely made some interesting choices here. The style's something. The little swooshes are kind of cool. I don't love the pose at all. I think that it looks kind of lame, personally. But that's just a personal opinion. Somebody else could like this card, and I wouldn't blame them. Golly, man. This is another instant binder card. I want this little guy. Look at him lounging in his little dug up dirt pile with the flowers all around, and he's just relaxed, and his, again, this sort of like soft edge with like the white glow around it really helps to make a Pokemon look a lot cuter, more relaxed, less intimidating. And I think if there was one piece of criticism I could give this, is that he could look a little fuzzier maybe, but even then, like, This looks so good. I really like this art. I really like this card. This is definitely up there. Some of my favorites of the set. Now, the Excadrill here almost has the opposite thing going on, right? It's got a very sort of bland background. It looks like maybe he's down in some sort of cave. It looks like he's working, right? This looks like a Pokemon that is put to work. Just zoom in and look at how many different colors of brown are used around the features of this Excadrill. And look at the strokes and the ways that which those different colors are contrasted. It makes him look fuzzy. And I really like that. And the steel parts, the way that they did that sort of like reflection of light coming back here off the claws. God, this is like, this claw coming out looks so good. And this Pokemon, I think maybe, again, if there's one piece of criticism I could give, maybe like his expression could be a little more like ready to go to work, or like he just looks kind of like meh, you know, like he's okay. But like, I really like the posing. I really like the way that they colored him in. I like the background. It complements it well. Like I said, looks like a Pokemon's getting ready to get down to business. And I like this card. This is a very good card. This might be the worst of the Iron fighting trio, or whatever you want to call them. There is a yellow piss-colored line straight across this card. It ruins this card, and there wasn't much to ruin. He's a big iron blob, and I really just don't love this Pokemon's design. That being said, he looks like a ton of fun to use in the games. He's got a really cool stat spread, really cool moves. The card doesn't look interesting as far as playing it in the TCG, and the art does not look that good, so I'm not too excited about this one. Ooh, sorry, another water break. Alright, Farigiraf EX. I like the idea of making it a dark type. That's pretty cool. I think what could have made this card a lot better is, and I know it wouldn't have looked as great, and again, this is probably more so the requirement of having these EX Pokemon sticking their head out of the frame. If this guy's neck was extended upward, and his head was smaller, and we could just see him looking down at us as he brings this hoof down. I don't know if you've ever seen giraffes like fight. I know they like slap their necks around or whatever. Their hooves are the size of dinner plates, and if one of them stepped on you, that would be so scary. And I feel like, especially with the dark typing, they could have leaned into that here, and I think that's what they were trying to do. But instead, with the way he's looking down, it just looks like he's like pointing at you, and that's not as intimidating. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I want to get stepped on by a Farigiraf, because I don't, and that's weird. But, like, it would certainly be more scary. Alright, now, here's an interesting counterpoint to the Excadrill that we saw earlier, with all of those tons of, like, really well-used variances of the same, essentially the same color. Now we have, this is Pop Art Fortress. He has 3 colors on him. 4 if you count, no, 3 colors. He has 3 colors on him. We used a very wide-tipped brush, and he looks like a little piece of pop art. And you know what? It works. This looks good. I like this art. The background leaves a little bit to be desired. Now, granted, I wouldn't have wanted a crazy detailed background or anything, but, like, I don't know, these trees look kind of ugly. And I kind of wish that he had more of a fun background to pop off of. And I wish that he had more, like, dynamic pose going on. He just looks like he's sort of sitting there. So, you know, not a bad card. Interesting, though, to point out the use of how few colors there are compared to how many colors there are in other cards that I've considered good. Whereas this one, I don't know. He's just kind of chilling. It looks all right. I like the use of minimal colors. It's a good stylistic choice. This EX actually looks pretty good. Dang. I'm kind of surprised at how much I like this. It looks like he's thrusting that claw forward, getting ready to snip at you. The scowl he's got on here, the wings flapping up in the background, the big swoosh to the other claw rearing back for maybe another pinch. This is a really cool EX, and I think that it might get kind of overshadowed a bit, but it looks good. I like him. Alright, this Mawile is certainly interesting. The big maw here crushing the rock, it's still up in the air, that looks great. The background having this sort of magenta glow to it really contrasts with the cream yellow color of the Mawile itself. And I think that I wouldn't be as enamored with this card art if it wasn't for that dang little smirk. Look at that little smirk. What a little smirk. This thing knows what it's doing. It's a devious little miscreant, and I love it. That's a good posing. If anything, any critique I could give this, zoom out a little bit. I want to see a little bit more of the surrounding area. I want to see all of the Mawile, and I want to see a little bit more of what you're destroying. Looks cool. Oh, wow. I did not notice this at first glance, but look at the realistic texturing on this Beldum. Look at all the little nicks and dents and stuff he got from just doing takedown over and over again. And wow, look at how it contrasts with that glassy, untouched, smooth eye. This whole underpart even looks so smooth, and that rough exterior has been dented and dinged, and it fits so well with the realistic background. Normally, I'm not into the realistic stuff, but this looks just alien enough that I kind of like that it's got a little bit of attachment to reality. It looks good. I am a fan. Next, we got the Metang. Metang already has, in the Metagross line, already has such a cool color palette with that, you know, bright pink glowing eyes with the cool blue and the sharp white of all its steel components. I really like the background sort of playing into that color contrast. However, I feel like right up here, there could have been more middle ground as far as blending. Because look at, you know, over here we've got, all these, you know, purples and pinks and stuff. And you got blues over here off the rocks and everything. And it blends super well in the foreground and off these like craggy rocks. But the sky is just kind of like, all right, here we go. There's the line. So if anything I could change about this would be to blend that a little better, but honestly it does not subtract from how cool this art looks. Really cool ability too. I'm excited to see if this gets used in GLC or in standard with like a Dialga or something. Could be fun. And then we got the Metagross. This is another very interesting pose, and I don't think it's very rare that we see Metagross because normally it is such a heavy looking Pokemon. It's like digging into the ground with its giant claws on the bottom of its like trunk-like feet. And here we actually see it like floating or maybe just jumping up in the air. It looks like he had all 4 feet down on the ground and he has swung them all up at the same time and is now floating, giving this sort of intimidating roar. And that's cool. I like the posing a lot on this. I like the streaks of that sort of similar color scheme of light of that pink and blue sort of playing in here. Feels like a good natural progression. And while it's not like the coolest looking card, I like it. It's good. Oh man, this Meltan is so cute. Remember what I said about the Ekans earlier? This is the protagonist that he's stealing the MacGuffin or the item from. This is the little Melmetal that could. And oh my god, he's so cute. I really like this card. Not a huge Melmetal guy, but so cute, so childlike. Really adorable. I think they nailed that with this card. Almost like these like Animal Crossing like pattern on the trees too. Really fun. Ooh, now they went with a hard left turn between the Meltan and the Melmetal. I really like the lighting glinting off. I think it did a really good job distinguishing the matte metal components with the super ultra glossy reflective liquid metals, like soldered components of this sort of like mechanized Pokemon. I like the lack of hard like edges around the outline of this Pokemon. I like that they left it soft, and it doesn't, like in the past I've said that that sort of like lack of a border makes the Pokemon look softer and like cozier. This one just makes it look more amorphous, and I think they did that to a really good effect. I really like this. This is I would say this is almost a sleeper as far as how good the quality of this one is. God, I hate this thing. This looks so bad. I guess the pink shockwaves are interesting. His trunk's not even in the frame, so he doesn't even look like an elephant. God, this thing looks horrible. I mean, even the like composition of the shot here, like sure, he's stomping and it's causing a big ruckus, but what's going on in the background? There's nothing happening. I don't know. I don't like this one. This Miraidon's very cool. Other Miraidons, I think, have looked like they could be your friend. This one does not. This thing looks like it could zap you to death in the blink of an eye. I really like how they positioned the sort of like snaking part of the body and then having the tail come up and wrap around. I think if the tail was just left to taper off and it was covered up by this like hand, it would have looked a little weird. But the way that they incorporated that sort of the chrome plating on it too looks so good. Wraps back up around the little wave lines along its chest, the glow, the shocks. I guess if there's any criticism I could give this is that there's a little too many shocks. But again, that's probably where some of that comes from, where it looks like it could zap you to death in the blink of an eye. Good art. I like this art, especially with the sort of blippy future pattern. Looks good. Cool dragon type. Wow. Wow. Holy crap. Look at the background. Look at the giant Swiss leaf plant back here. Look at all those colors. Holy cow. I did not take a close enough look at this Lickitung on first passing. This is going to be an underrated one, that's for sure. I don't love his expression. He looks kind of like he's in pain when it looks like he should be happy and relaxed. This looks like a very nice environment to be in, and he's just a little tubby guy. I'm a fan. Wow, look at the little like lines on the skin and the tongue and on the tree in the background. God, that looks so freaking good. That looks really, really good. Next, we got this Licky. Not a big fan of Licky's design. There's not really much going on in the background here either. If it was like a forest, I guess I could see like the berries falling off a tree and he's trying to grab them. I think the one bit of praise I could give this card is that it does make his tongue look quite goopy and disgusting, and that's what it's supposed to do, so good job there. Otherwise, I don't think this card is too remarkable. Cute Skitty. I think the background is nice in that it's sort of a blurry mishmash of colors with little yellow dots in the middle that makes our brain go, oh, those are flowers. I don't need to worry about those. Look at the cute cat. And it does that well. I think this is well composed. If anything, that's like weird that there's little like dark pits here, but I get that it's to show that there's depth. But if anything else, you could have made this like more of a flat flower bed and had the hill sort of cut across that and show that there's depth there. But it's not terrible. This is a perfectly fine card. Ooh, I really like this one. The background especially. I'm not, like, the Delcatty's expression is very cute. And, you know, it's fine enough Pokemon. I like the posing. I like that it's sort of, like, dancing around. You know what this reminds? It reminds me of Kiki's Delivery Service. Like, this, like, super beautiful, like, oceanic view with, like, these, like, little coastal buildings. Oh, this looks great. I really like the background on this card. Not quite as much as maybe, like, the Frostmoth that I saw earlier. But dang, that is tight. I really like the background on that card, and I like that card a lot more as a result of that. Cool. Oh, well, that's just ugly. That is not my favorite. Remember how I said, like, dingy background colors can really make a colorful main focus of the thing pop? Yeah, no. This is a pigeon. I like Pidove in general. This background is not doing him any favors. The sloppy line work is not doing him any favors. This looks really ugly. I don't like it. This Tranquil looks a lot better. See, this is what I'm talking about. Tranquil and Pidove, and really its whole line. I guess the male on Pheasant that I can kind of get a glimpse of down there. As a line, it's not the most expressive or like colorful Pokemon, and that's okay. They don't need to all be. I think there can be some more subtle Pokemon designs. And I think this does a good job of making it still pop. Because now it's said, okay, well, instead of the Pokemon being colorful, let's make the background colorful. It's just a very blurry mountain range with a field more in the foreground. There's some little petals blowing up. The Tranquil is sort of looking off up into the clouds. The clouds have a beautiful gold contrasting color to the pink that's sort of reflecting off the land. The light spilling down through the clouds. This looks good. This is a very good art. I like this art. Ooh, yeah, no, this misses for me. He's not even all in the frame. the swooshy lines indicate that he's going really fast, and so does the perspective here. There's really not much to look at in terms of the background. It just looks squashed and stretched to weird proportions. Not a huge fan of this one, gotta say. Although, golly, man, in a bird-themed GLC deck, 180 for 3, we'll have to see what the heck is going on there. Now, see, this is what I was talking about much earlier when I was talking about the Relicanth, where the Relicanth had a good amount of colors in the background, but a simple line work in the background, and he was sort of just swimming along in front of it. I get the idea that Relicanth is an old Pokemon, Drampa is an old Pokemon, and I think there are two ways that this art could have been improved significantly. If the Drampa was flying through these like high peaks with the clouds wrapped around them, that could have looked really cool. And I think I would have liked it just as much as the Relicanth. Or if they want to keep this more walking pose and have him be like this old wanderer, just take right here, this line right where he's standing on, and give it like this like high-rise ridge. Just put a little bit of grass underneath him. Give it some nice texture. Maybe show that these other peaks back here have similar little outcroppings of, some foliage on top of them, or even snow or something. Like, just having him walk along something here would make it seem a lot more like he's doing his little old man trudge on his little journey through the mountains. Instead, it looks like he's like T-posing and flying through the air, and it just does not look like, it's not flattering. Not good. I don't like it. I don't know. I think it's mostly just that one bit, because otherwise it is a very pretty card. I'm not going to spend too much time on the trainers. I didn't notice before how it looks like, it almost looks like someone sat their deck in front of a leaf blower and it's just like going away. That works really well for the hand clippers. I think that's fun. Prime Catcher, sure. Looks like a fancy piece of machinery. Catching something, sure. Future Bot, I like it. Looks like a gas tank. Gassing up my Pokemon, fueling them for the attack. I like it. Hero Cape looks a little meh. Sure, the shockwaves around the charm. Sure. Future Booster, if we had this looks a little odd. I immediately recognized it as a Wishful Baton successor without having to even know what the text was, so good job on that as far as like the design, I guess. The Cryptomaniac's Deciphering, at least I believe that's what it's called. This is pretty cool. I don't love the design of the character themselves that much. The hair looks a little weird, the posture is a little weird, but I guess it makes sense for someone staring at a computer screen all day, hacking into stuff, reading a book. Sure, this is fine. I like this guy's outfit. The haircut's a little odd. I don't really even know who this is. They're in an office. Is that sticky note board and a printer and some lockers behind them? I don't get the feel that this is like a faculty member at an office. So this is tripping me up a little bit. Is this a character from the DLC? Maybe it is. I don't know. I haven't played it. Regardless, this looks okay. It's fine. He looks like an okay trainer. It's passable. It's not the best thing. Whatever. This is very cute. I like the posing here a lot. Bianca's a very fun, carefree sort of a trainer. Shows here a lot. I'm not sure what town this is in, but it looks like she's just having a good time walking around, having a good day. Sure, I like it. This is very cool for metal Pokemon. This seems like a place you would find a metal Pokemon, absolutely. Theming is right on point. Like it a lot. Mist Energy has some very cool effects around it, fitting to the name. Love the color contrast with that golden pink. We've seen it several times in these cards. It's a good combo. All right, and now we get into the big hitters. The illustrator rares we've had thus far, and I think all of them. This Relicanth is super cool. It reminds me of the Aerodactyl flying over the ancient Pokemon, whereas this one's background isn't as vibrant and cool. It is still very cool. All of the crazy little details on these little Minions, even just the difference in how they're like posed, like this one's following that one, this guy's following the little Shelder, the weird like craggy depths going down below, the Huntail squirming around them. This is a very good art, and I think we're going to be hard pressed to find any of these illustrator rares that aren't good. This one might be one of the best arts in the set. Remember how we said before that Shiftry is blasting through the jungle, looking for, where he's trying to go, a target or a threat. This looks like he is so angry he's whipping up a storm, and it's chaos, man. Poor little C-Dot are getting caught in the crossfire. But I love it. This looks so good. This is a cooler version of the King Gambit we got a couple sets ago. This is a baller card. This is how you do an Illustrator Rare. Might be my favorite card in the set. Really, it's up there, definitely. I think this might be the only Illustrator Rare that I don't really like. I think, like I said before, I think the basic version of this card actually has cooler art. It just looks really bland. I like the colors. Colors are cool, but honestly the other one does a better job of making him look shiny, and his matte parts looking matte, and the glowing parts looking glowy, which is the cool part of a robot. It looks like a mech suit, and this one is just like, it's almost the same pose too. And it's tough because I don't feel like you can give this Pokemon many poses, but sure, whatever. This is fine. It's not my favorite. Now this is another contender for one of my personal favorite cards in the set. Look at this little Jellyman relaxing, bobbing on the shallow ocean waters with his little friends. Look at the little slant in his eyes of like, this is where I want to be. That is so cute, and I love this art. I think this might be my favorite card in the set. It's such a good card. Really, really like this one. All right. This Misdreavus card is phenomenal, and I think it's just a flat-out better version of the sort of snarky, devious energy that they were trying to go for with the base one. I love that these little, like, hexy, sort of like will-o-wisps are almost like burned into the frame. It's like they're lapsing over the layers of the other things in the card. I love that we're almost like hiding, but it can still look back and see us hiding behind this plant, but it's still moving forward. It's got that eerie glow around its neck. God, this is good art. This is really good art. Again, another banger. It looks like you have just crept up on this gouging fire in the middle of its natural habitat. The glow, the steamy feel of like the rainforest, the beautiful, vibrant, like explosive red flowers here fit so well with him. I don't love his design, but I love this art. It looks so good. Same can be said here for the Walking Wake. I like a lot that, like, this almost, like, this is Area 0, right? Down here. It's like all the glowy blue bits with, like, some nice pink accents. It's a cool angle to view this Pokemon from, certainly. You can see the tendrils real well. You can see the mane and the scales really well. I like this one. This is another really good one. I think this one, I don't know, the Gouging Fire is really good to me, but this one is also phenomenal. I like that it is like as tall as the cliffs, the lightning is cracking. See, the background around the Bronzong that we looked at earlier, this is the type of Pokemon that should have that background. The lightning crashing down and cracking the sky. God, this is a really good art. I think I might have to give the edge to the Gouging Fire here in this trio, because the Gouging Fire has more of like a little bit of a pouncing pose going on, whereas this one's just sort of like, he almost looks a little awkward with his knees and his like little ankles sitting together, and he's just like, well, I'm here. But still, really good art. On to the next trio. This looks better. I mean, honestly, I think the further away we get from these three ugly looking robots, the better they actually look. And it's mostly just because they look like the actual Pokemon that they were based off of, which are far superior designs. I do like the way that the glowing bits glow here. I love the background. Looks so good. I like how the cards fit together. I don't know if this is my favorite of the three. I think it might belong to the Iron Crown here with the little cherry blossoms spiraling up here. Oh, the big moon in the background, the blue glow contrasting that orangey yellow, but also connecting it to the blue sky and also contrasting it with these pink petals. God, looks really good. I think this is my favorite of this trio. I think Iron Leaves is right behind it, and Womp Womp, Iron Boulder, looks like he got left behind. He looks like his mom dropped him off at the bus stop and he's waiting on the bus to show up, and he accidentally pissed in several large pools around himself, and now he's just waiting ashamed for his classmates to pull up in the bus and ridicule him. So with that, that is the rest of the, or that is all, I believe, of the Temporal Forces set that we're going to see. All those arts reviewed. Thanks for sticking around for an hour and 45 minutes. Jesus. Yeah, if you want to send this to anybody, I'm not going to post it anywhere, but if there's some interest for some reason for more people to hear about my thoughts on these arts, absolutely. I'd love to share it around, of course. Yeah, looking forward to this set. Looking forward to seeing what more of these cards can do. So yeah, thanks for listening to my inane ramblings for this long, and hope you have a good day.